So I know the economy is really hurting right now, so I wanted to make this video that could be a potential beacon of hope for the future and for entrepreneurs. Now, most of the time when entrepreneurs think about business or some kind of new venture, they think about starting a business. And for whatever reason, we've all strayed away from the idea of potentially purchasing a business. And because of that, because the crowd is going away from purchasing businesses, that leaves this gap where there's the potential to pick up an existing business at an awesome price and make a massive rate of return on that. And due to the current economy and how crazy things have been the last couple of months, I personally believe that the opportunity in buying a business is better than it's ever been, and it was already a great opportunity. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why buying a business could potentially be an awesome strategy for the future, why right now has made buying a business an even better decision potentially, and then some small business buying criteria that I look at when I'm looking at deals and what I think are the potential best opportunities among all the businesses that are for sale. So getting into why right now is a good time to buy a business. Well, there's a statistic that every single day 10,000 baby boomers retire, and many of them own small businesses. However, like I said earlier, no one is buying these businesses. Who's the last, just think about your friends. Who has started a business versus bought a business? Everyone knows, a bunch of people who have started businesses, not very many who have bought businesses. However, all these people retiring who have businesses that no one's buying. So what happens when these people want to retire? Well, if they can't find anyone to buy it, the employees or whoever, then it just shuts down, and all that potential goodwill that has been built up over years and years, potentially decades, just goes away. So because of this, because of the low demand, there's a low earnings multiple that gets used when purchasing small businesses. If you look at like a large public company, it's not uncommon to see an earnings multiple of 15 to 20, meaning the price of the business is at about 15 to 20 times what that business earns in a single year. But with small businesses, this is a statistic from bizbuysell.com, the average business sells for 1.96 times earnings. So what does that mean? That means the amount that that company makes in a year. Let's say a company profits $100,000 in a year. That means that that company, on average, will sell for just under $200,000, which is a rate of return that you can't get really anywhere else. And it's because no one is really looking at these deals, especially once you get to a certain size, especially once you get to like over $1 million a year in sales. There's very little competition. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So another reason to potentially buy a business versus starting one is the amount of customers that have been built up over the years. As you know, if you started a business or you know anyone who started a business, they're really not profitable in most cases for several years. Sometimes 10 years they're not profitable, depending on the level of infrastructure that's needed, assets that are needed. With buying a business, yes, you have debt up front in most cases. However, you're going to have that either way, and you're going to have that goodwill and that customer base already in place. Another amazing reason to buy a business is seller financing. Sellers, in most cases, want to see the business go on and succeed, and as a small business owner, they understand it's really hard to get a loan for a business. You got to go through like the SBA, which, as we know, has had its problems recently. And they understand that most people don't have a ton of cash sitting around to just plop down and buy a business. They understand that seller financing eases the transition a lot easier. And in a lot of cases, you can buy small businesses with a large portion financed by the seller. So seller financing coupled with a low earnings multiple sets the stage for a relatively low investment in order to return a high, rate. Another major reason is many people who are selling businesses, who are retiring and trying to get out of a business, are very concerned about the legacy of the business. It's kind of hard to think of if you're a young person. You think more like, if I were to sell a business, I'd want to cash out and make a bunch of money on it. However, if you've been in business for, let's say, 30, 40 years, you built up these clients, you have these employees who have been with you for 10, 15, 20 years, you want that business to survive. You want your name to be there. You want your customers to be taken care of. You want your employees to have a job. You want that name up on the building still. That legacy really matters to people who are retiring in most cases, so much so that a lot of people care more about the legacy than they do about getting a pile of cash up front or even a high sale price. So it's another major reason that buying a business can potentially be an awesome deal. So now let's look at how the current economy is affecting all of this. Let's go back to owners who are retiring. And just think about this current economy. Any small business owner right now is under a ton of stress. They don't know, when this chaos is going to end. And if you're someone who's in the back of your mind, you're like, I should probably retire in the next 2-3 years. An event like this is no doubt making them think, I wish I was out of business right now. I wish I was retired and relaxing at the lake house or whatever. So this could be that last push that gets even more people to retire. And right now, there's definitely be a much lower level of excitement for any business owner because 98% of businesses are doing numbers that are much, much lower than they were even last year, probably 5 years ago. So that excitement that many business owners have, that what could be the reason keeping from someone retiring is gone right now. Even more reason to sell a business. And also, sellers are going to be even more understanding for the need of seller financing. When people don't have as much money right now, they're going to be more open to seller financing. On top of this, lower earnings. The way that businesses are valued are by earnings. By default, when the economy dips like this, there's less earnings. Basically, at this point, the entire 2020 is at least going to be affected, maybe 2021, which means the value of that company, how it's valued, is no doubt going to be lower than it was even last year. So there could be the potential for deals that are just sitting there, that are amazing deals, and after everything rebounds, that 100 or 50% return in good times could jump up even higher and make an even better deal. So a sale of a business could also be considered a lifeline for certain business owners who are potentially over-leveraged or have some lifestyle creep where they have this idea of how much income that's going to come in every single month, every single year, so they can afford their house and their new vehicle and all that. And now everything is collapsing, and they're like, I need to get some money and make something happen. Even more reason to sell a business. On top of this, eventually the economy is going to rebound. Everything's going to eventually be better. We don't know exactly how long, but many businesses are going out of business during this period. Once everything gets better, there's going to be demand for the services that are going out of business, meaning the people who survive and are in business are going to be the ones who reap the benefits of the fact that other people are out of business and the demand is still there. So let's move on to the criteria that I look at. I'm constantly looking at small businesses for sale. Over the past year, I regularly look at least once or twice a week. I'll look at the most recent businesses for sale, do a little analysis because this is something that's really interesting to me, and I will undoubtedly purchase a business at some point in the future. So these are some questions that I ask for each deal. What do I know about this industry? How easy is this industry to figure out? This is a common theme for me. I focus on simple businesses. A business that anyone could run. I don't know a whole lot of high-tech type stuff, so I don't look at high-tech type businesses. Is this business an active or passive investment? Now, I don't necessarily stray away from one or the other, but I need to have an understanding of that before I get into it, what exactly it's going to be. Do I have a passion for this business? In most cases, that's going to be a no. But in in just about every business, there's going to be something that could be done in the business that you could be passionate about. For instance, I own a moving company. I'm not necessarily passionate about moving, but I do love customer service and I love marketing, and I focus my attention on those things. Do I have anyone in my network that can help with this business is another great question to ask. Now, when looking at the company, these are some things that I look for. Having complete financials. It sounds kind of crazy that some companies don't have that, but when you're looking at businesses for sale, many of them don't. I strongly prefer complete financials, which means a balance sheet, 3 years of tax returns, 3 years of profit and loss, ideally the last few months profit and loss, an itemized list of assets, anything that I can take a look at and try to decipher if there's any potential issues, what the real value is, etc. For me personally, now with these criteria, not any business is going to hit all of them, by the way. So this would be the perfect business, which basically doesn't exist. These are all just things to look for. Here's some more financial criteria. For me personally, I look for businesses between $2 and $13 million in revenue. The reason for that size is because once you get up to around the $2 million a year mark, then that excludes a lot of small purchasers, so there's less competition, and up to about the 13 million mark is when institutional type buyers start looking at businesses. So that's kind of a sweet spot where it's too big for most individuals, too small for most institutions, and that's where I look. However, that's not to say that there aren't good deals below $2 million, because I really think there are, and that's where you can get in for $50,000 or potentially less. There are certain situations, believe it or not, where sellers will finance a business 100%, or you can do a combination of seller financing and an asset financing where you're basically getting loans against the assets of the business in order to purchase that business. That's kind of nuanced, so I won't get into that on this video. I can do more videos on this topic if you guys are interested. Another thing I look for is cash flows that cover debt payments 2 to 1. That's just basic health of the business. And I look for net income over 12% of revenue. That doesn't sound crazy high, but once you get into a larger size business, that's pretty darn profitable. And that's after everything, 12%. Some more questions to ask. Are the assets of the business owned free and clear? Does the business have assets that can be lent against? That's a question to ask as far as purchasing. If a business is for sale for, let's say, $2 million and they have $1 million in assets, you know you can probably get about $600,000 in loans against those assets in order to purchase that business. What is the asset to income ratio? So why I ask myself this is because I want to know how much I have to spend in order to make more money. If a business has $1 million in assets and earns $100,000 in profit, that means you probably have to purchase close to another $1 million in assets to earn an additional $100,000 in profit. So that's super important when looking at businesses for sale. What does the market look like? Has the industry grown in the last 5 years? And is the industry forecasted to keep growing? Some more questions asked. Does the company have any form of competitive advantage? What potential items could limit sales? Potential tax changes, tariffs, competition, technologies. What is the barrier to entry in this industry? Now that is something that could be a huge reason to buying a business. If it's in an industry that's hard to get into, then you're just starting way ahead. If, let's say, you need all sorts of licensing or relationships to build contracts, things like that could be a huge reason to purchase a business. Customers, I look for a business that has no one customer that owns 30% or more of the company's revenue, or no 3 customers that are more than 60% of revenue. If you have a single or a few customers that account for that much revenue, it's a scary place, because if there's a transition in ownership and they decide that's a good time to try out a different service, that could easily be a huge chunk of your business, and I personally don't want a business that loses 30% overnight. Some more questions to ask. Are the customers strong and profitable? AKA, are they able to pay bills easily? How do they earn more customers is another great question to ask. And I have all sorts of criteria here. I can go and probably make an entire video just on my business buying criteria. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Some other couple major questions to ask as to whether it's a good deal for you personally is, how can you personally add value in it? One way to look at is, what is the marketing spend of the business? If you're looking at a business and they have low to no marketing spend whatsoever, then you know that if you go in and do some advertising, you can at least increase sales somewhat with basically doing nothing else. What are the systems like in a business? A business with poor systems has the ability to be much more profitable and much more streamlined. Does the business use outdated technology, or is the business in a position where the owner was technology adverse? Is there things that you can do to increase efficiency there? Is there any way that you can expand in new areas to become more profitable? However, my caveat there is I recommend anyone who goes into a new business for the first few months just to kind of sit back and learn before they decide to expand into certain things, because sometimes there's reasons why they're not expanded into certain other things. So I hope that this video makes any entrepreneurs that are watching this really consider the possibilities of purchasing a business over starting a business. Now, I know right now people are hurting. There's not a whole lot of cash to go around. Most people don't have reserves, but some people do. And I just think that this is an awesome opportunity. And for the people who are poised, it could definitely be a major game changer in any entrepreneur's life. Until next time, thank you for watching, and hope you have a profitable day.